In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a simple game using Scratch Junior. In the game that I've created here, I have a rocket going up and down the screen, and if I tap the rocket, I can hold the rocket back. And when the rocket hits one of the planets, moving back and forth, the screen will change to a big explosion and say the end. The first thing we'll need to do is open the Scratch Junior app, which is the cat. Once there, it'll bring up the option to go to your home and dashboard or choose help. So we'll choose the house. And this brings us to the main dashboard, and this is where your projects will be saved and where you can create new projects. So to create a new project, press the blank rectangle with the blue positive sign. And this will bring us to a new page where we have our stage where the cat or the sprite is. And the sprite is another name for a character. And below the sprite, you'll see a blank white rectangle, and that is where your script will be. But for the purpose of this game, we're not actually going to use the cat. So to get rid of the cat from our stage, if you hold down on it, it'll start to wobble, and then you can press the X. And so now you have a blank stage to start with. So our first character or sprite we're going to add will be a rocket. So you will need to, on the left-hand side, choose the blue button with the plus sign. This will give us all our sprite options, and we'll scroll down to the very bottom and find the rocket, and then choose the check mark at the top. So now we have our rocket, and I'm going to initially place it sort of where I want it to start when the game starts. And then if you notice, there's a round button that's blue with an X and an arrow right beside the green flag. If you press that button, that will set the rocket to go to this exact spot every time you restart the game. So press that button there. And now we need to add our planets. So choose the plus sign again and scroll down till you find, I'm going to add the planet Earth and press the check mark. And I'm going to place it on the left hand side of the screen. And then now I'm going to add the moon. So press the plus sign again on the left hand side and scroll down to find the moon. And press check. And I'm going to start this one on the other side. So then they're moving in opposite directions during the game. The first thing I want to do is, if you notice on the left-hand side, you'll see that all your sprites are on the top left in a white rectangle. When you click one of those, it'll actually open it up so you can see all the code that you've created for that one sprite. So I'm going to click on the rocket, and what I want to do is resize all of my sprites because I think that they're too big right now on the stage. So we'll go into the rocket and click one of the yellow buttons on the bottom left, and this are the event buttons. So these buttons are sort of like if-then statements. So if you pick the green flag, which we're going to do, and drag it into our script area, so when the green flag is pressed, I want my rocket to shrink. So go into the purple blocks. And now you'll see there's a few buttons here. There's one where the sprite starts off small and then gets big, and then where it starts off big and then gets small. So I'm going to choose the big to small because I want it to shrink. And you can play around with the numbers, but I've already done it ahead of time, so I know that I want it to shrink by 8. And an easy way to copy your code into another sprite is to just hold down on the code blocks and actually drag it into your other scripts. So now when you actually look into Earth, it should have the same code there that I want it to shrink by 8. It's really important to always test what you've just done. So to test, press the green flag because that was our event button to start the game. So when we press the green flag, all of these sprites should actually decrease in size. And they did. So that means that worked. Our next step is that we need to get our rocket to actually move forward. So we are on the rocket script right now, and if you're not, make sure you go to the top left-hand side and choose the rocket. And then we're going to create another event, so press the yellow button and then the green flag. So when the green flag is pressed, I want my rocket to move up. So I'm going to go to the movement block, which is the blue block with the arrow, and choose up. And now I don't want it to just move up one space as it says below. I want it to do it continuously forever. So if you go to the red block at the top, there's a forever loop, and you can drag that into there, and that would mean that the rocket will move forward one space forever. And we can test that and see that it keeps moving forward. And the nice thing about Scratch Junior is you can actually watch the code blink back and forth to sort of see what's actually going on right now with the code, which is kind of useful. To stop, you can press the red stop sign at the top. And so now we have our rocket moving forward. We want our planets moving back and forth. So we'll go to our Earth and start with an event block. So choose the yellow events, and when the green flag is pressed, I want my Earth to move to the right. So I'm going to go to the movement blocks, which are blue, and choose the right arrow. And just like the rocket, I want it to move forever throughout the game. So we will then go to the red blocks and choose the forever loop. And then we're going to do the same thing with the moon. So tap on your moon script and choose an event, the yellow button, and choose the flag. And just like the Earth, we're going to have it move, so choose the movement block with the arrow. And this time I'm going to have it move to the left. So I'm going to choose the left arrow. And again, I want it to move forever, so go to the red and choose the forever looping button. Now, if I test that to see that all those scripts are working, I can press the green flag at the top and see that they're all moving as I have asked them to. We can press stop right there. To make the game more interesting, we want to make sure that the player can have some control over the main character or the rocket. So we're going to go back to our rocket script, choosing the rocket. And for this one, we want to make sure that if we tap the rocket, that we can control its movement and have it move backwards. So on our events, the yellow button, we're going to create a new event where if we touch, so you'll see a hand touching a person. So we'll move that one in there. So if we touch the rocket, we want it to move backward 1. So we'll go back to our movement and we want to choose the down arrow. And so we choose down because it's the opposite of the movement that it was actually going before. And if we test that out by pressing the green flag, we can see that when we tap the rocket, it actually does move back, and you can try to avoid hitting the planets. Let's now stop the script from running, so press the stop sign at the top. And the next thing I want to do is actually add a background. So to add a background, you're going to look for the picture beside the ABC at the top and choose that. And then I'm going to scroll down and actually choose one of the space scenes. And you can actually draw your own if you go to the top and see the blank rectangle at the top. But for this case, we're going to choose one that's already created and press check. And so now you'll notice that we have our background placed. And now we want something to actually happen to the rocket when it's hit by one of the planets or when it hits one of the planets. So we're actually going to create a new scene to sort of signify the end of the game. And so when the rocket hits one of the planets, it will move to the next scene, and the next scene will be an explosion. So to make another scene or another stage, we're going to press the plus sign on the right-hand side of the screen. And this will take us to a new stage where we have the cat sprite again. So we want to get rid of the cat by holding down on it and pressing the X. And we're going to go into the picture again, or the backdrops up by the ABCs, and choose the same background we have. And then instead of pressing the check right away, we're going to press the paint button to the left of the check. And now this gives us the ability to actually draw on the background. On the top left, you'll see sort of a squiggly paint line underneath the backward arrow. So choose that one, and then I'm going to choose the thickest line and choose orange. And I'm going to actually just start kind of creating a explosion. And you can do this however you want. And I might add a little bit of red into that. All right, so now I have this, so I can press the check mark. And I also want to add some lettering, or some words saying the end. So choose the ABC button, and I'm going to type in the end using the keyboard. And then on the right-hand side, you can change the color. So there's like a paintbrush type thing. And I'm going to choose it to white so that it actually shows up. And then press go. And I might position it right into the middle. So there we have our second scene. And so now we're going to go back to our first scene. So go on the right hand side, you'll see the number 1 above the scene we just made. So press that and we'll go back to our regular screen we were working on. The final step in this tutorial is to actually have the rocket change from one stage to the next when it hits or touches one of the other sprites. So we're going to make sure we go into our rocket script, and we're going to add a new event. So the events are in yellow, and you're going to choose the block that looks like the 2 children are touching hands, and we'll drag that into our script area. And then we're going to go to the red buttons or the red blocks. And now you notice we have our new stage that's actually an option that wasn't there before. And so we can drag that into the bottom and click those together. So now this is saying when the sprites touch each other, it will switch to stage 2. So let's test this out to see if that works. And so we have our rocket going. See if I can slow it down so it hits. Oops. And there we have it. We have it and a big explosion and the end.